Winsted residents, what can the matter be? Winsted residents, what can the matter be? Winsted residents, what can the matter be? Justice is long overdue. Hello, everybody. Tonight I'm going to be playing you the rest of the public hearing that was held on October 24th, 2016, to discuss the planning and zoning totally rewritten regulations and debate the changes necessary. Some were accepted, some weren't. And then they made their final decision. They had a vote, was unanimous, to take the changes they made to these totally rewritten planning and zoning regulations, send them off to Sean Suter in Cincinnati, Ohio, the consultant that they hired for about $50,000 to help them with these regulations. A lot of work was done by the subcommittee as well of town commission members, and now ready, perhaps, we hope, we'll see, to be put into effect on November 7th, 2016, providing all goes well between now and then. So I'll be back again with another program, probably the week following this program, because when this program is being played for the first time, it'll be the Planning and Zoning 7th of November meeting. And I will say to you, if you have any changes you want to make to your property, especially on Highland Lake, might not be a bad idea to go down and check with the town and see if you'll still be able to do it with the new regulations. Most people will be able to do what they want, but not everything. And then try to get your application in before these new planning and zoning regulations take effect. You don't have much time to do it because the time is up now. So if it gets stalled for any reason, then you should get in there. But otherwise, it's too late now. These regulations will be approved on November 7th, and you'll have to live with them for probably 10 years. There will be some small evolutionary changes along the way. But anyway, let's now listen to what they have to say about these regulations and these requested changes. And then you can make up your own mind whether you think we have made some progress here. I'm pretty sure we have. I think most of the people who wanted suggested changes that were rational will probably feel comfortable with these changes. And all in all, we do have a better set of P&Z regulations for bookkeeping, that's for sure. You have less zones. They're not as big a deal as they make it out to be because a lot of them have just been combined. And Torrington, as I said on a previous program, has about 17 zones or so themselves. So minimum number of zones isn't the total answer. But anyway, have a listen. Let me know what you think. Let everybody else know what you think. But the end is near.
He brought up the payment and fee of lieu of parking. Neat concept, something to consider, but it will make it more expensive to start a business on Main Street.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
It's the same situation. In one situation, we're talking about let's be able to create an atmosphere of growth and make it as simple as possible to do that. And then you turn around and do something like this. So now you have a restaurant And he claims we shouldn't be able to consider anything on Main Street as common area parking. So now you got a 50-seat restaurant.
There's no way to get the parking.
There's no way in hell you're gonna do that, excuse me, but, you know, when we talked about, at some point, you know, open space subdivisions and you know, the developer doesn't have to put it in, they can pay a fee into an open space fund. That whole idea of, you know, funding this through some other thing, come on. Who's gonna monitor it? Who's gonna have, you know, is it gonna be sent to Henry down in Bridgeport?
Well, I could just see a restaurant telling a customer, well, here's your bill, and there's also a $5 fee charge for parking.
I totally get it.
Parking surcharge. Okay.
I was just asking if he was aware of any city or town that actually had done this, because it is kind of an interesting idea, but I'm just curious as to what the...
There are some towns that do it, because I've heard some chatter on the listserv, the planner's listserv, but I couldn't tell you. They were like cities or larger towns, but I don't recall.
But, you know, the
Where?
thing that also troubles me when you talk about that kind of thing, when I was working with John Morisi, we worked with the Yale Design Group,
Right.
and they came up and assisted us and evaluated all the parking that's available in town. Great deal of it, and we got a report on it someplace. I know I've got it in my office somewhere. And the situation is that we aren't, as a community, utilizing the opportunities that we have available because we don't have a unified voice to sit down with property owners, and then because the biggest concern is maintenance of a parking lot, liability of a parking lot, and so forth. But if we come up with a community-wide plan and come up with a way to deal with it, and you know, the more we get, the stronger we get financially in this community now, we're well on the recovery mode, and identifying where the parking is and so forth is a key. You gotta go searching and hunting. You can go to West Farms and people will park 2 miles away from where they go shopping. Once they get into the building, it's okay. When you get to Winston, you gotta park right in front of the door. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a, you know, it's an attitude. Then how do you change that? It's a mindset.
Yeah.
So I totally forget that.
Okay, John Ricci talked again about the height, we've kind of already discussed that. Joe Nichols, there's nothing there really to change, I don't think. And same thing with the last couple, so that's what I had. You know, we had you know, a few other things that we had changed. The Highland Lake Business District to allow the condos up overhead. Or something, I'm sure you've been through these and have looked at the various changes.
So Steve, all these comments and all this, you already made the changes in this redlined version we have here?
Yeah, most of them, although some of them have to come out. But yeah, are getting modified.
Steve, one of the things that I mentioned last time, because there were discussions, and you had talked about the roof, measuring the roof heights and so forth. And I suggested we have some kind of a, like, you know, this type.
Yeah, and I didn't get that done, but that's something we can think about and add in at some point, I'm sure.
Because I think that would help, you know, visually to be able to say, okay, this is how you measure this type of roof, and there's your height. No, but I think that helped because you brought up the A-frame, which
Yeah.
is, you know, difficult.
We can try and come up with some diagrams and add them in at some point.
I mean, that all that is doing is
Showstopper, but-
amplifying what we've got in here,
Yeah.
the requirements. It's not changing anything that we already presented to the public. But it just gives us, I think, a visual to be able to determine how you look at it. And some of these roof styles, you might not have even run into it before, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, well, this is what it is, and now you got it. I think that, you know, the work you've done on this, and I think about the subcommittee. I look back at my notes on the subcommittee, or someplace here. We had 22 meetings scheduled, and we held 18. I think we had, some of them were canceled because we were waiting for responses from
Sean,
Attorney
yeah.
Branson from Cincinnati. So you know, I think that the efforts we put into this as a commission and the subcommittee, I'll tell you what, I go into a lot of communities and I've not seen as clear. I mean, I went back through tonight looking at our existing regulations, and, you know, you go into IB zone and it references IA, then it go into CA, reference, I mean, holy Christmas. It's like, it never ends. It's like chase this thing until you get tired.
I guarantee in 3 months or 6 months, we'll be going back in to make a few adjustments.
And there's a provision how to do that. I mean, like
Yeah.
you say, how many times you can look at this and before long you feel like you're...
You gotta run it through the mill and see what, you know, how it works, how it performs.
Well, we already have one, a
You
change
gotta
that
test
we're gonna
drive it.
make.
Well, yeah,
And I-
those were all along lines that we've been discussing.
We've already
It's
made
not
those
like
rules
new
conforming
ground.
to what our discussions
But
have.
the other thing is, when we do vote to approve this, then it's gonna go back out to Sean for him to do the index.
Yeah, the index will get tweaked after we get the final.
So that's fine.
Yeah, there's no point in doing that till.
No, I totally
And
agree.
clean up any formatting, that doesn't, you can do that after we vote.
Well, I make a motion right now to accept the regulations that we've discussed, and
Well, let's,
Okay.
where's my,
Let me, I have it here. Do you want me to read this into the record?
yeah, you want to indicate that you reviewed that it does meet the plan of, meet
yeah.
the requirements of the, or the recommendations in the plan of conservation and development for both the regs and the maps as well.
We gotta vote on the maps.
Sorry, I got it.
Yeah, you
Right.
can do, I would do them separately probably. And then you want to also make sure you put an effective date, and you could do it as early as November 7th. That would give us plenty of time to get them advertised.
So I make this is a motion on the regulations. I make a motion that we accept the regulations as been
Approved.
It's been amended based on our discussion here tonight, the 24th of October. And that we feel that the regulations are in compliance with our POCD, that they shall be effective on November 7th, 2016.
7th, this mine says
7th, November 7th.
November 7th, 2016.
Yeah.
1st. Yeah, no, mine says the 1st.
Oh, you're looking at the one from last, I printed a new one out for you.
All right,
Gave us a little more time.
all right.
I think that's all we need.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
As we amended them tonight.
Yes,
Yeah.
Now, we're just voting on the regs now.
yes.
Right now, yes. We'll do the,
All, any discussion? All those in favor?
unanimous.
Unanimous.
Okay, now do the-
Deal with
The
the maps.
my second motion to accept the maps as modified through our discussion tonight,
Change 1 and 2. Approve.
to, that we have modified map proposal 1 and proposal 2 to include, again, the maps as modified, and then also that they are in compliance with our POCD, and they in fact also would become effective on November 7th, 2016.
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? How do we get paid?
No, the meetings will continue, so Peru's map morale improves.
That's awesome.
Meeting
Okay.
schedule. Wow.
For the record, I took my computer out and, because of the steps of last year, I checked, we had the calendar approval. The next agenda item, I lost mine. Oh, here it is.
I make a motion that we approve the,
And they, I found they were all
as,
Because Pam did them. I didn't do them. That's why they're not all screwed
I
up.
couldn't understand that on October, on a Tuesday.
because it's Columbus Day.
Columbus Day is
Oh.
tonight.
The calendar I had didn't give any.
What about these DVDs?
No, I need to go back to school and remember your holidays.
You've got one of those computers that uses the mic.
Gotta replace the mics. They get old and worn out.
Okay. So we accept the proposed schedule.
Further harassment?
Do we have to vote on that?
Yeah, you might as well just.
I make a motion to accept the 2017.
Proposed schedule.
I'll second it.
All those, any discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a
Unanimous.
motion to adjourn?
No,
No.
Oh, hold on.
no. Well, we're not gonna go through, new business, communications and all that stuff.
Sorry.
we kind of jumped
And
ahead.
I do have something, I
Okay.
guess, under communications, I say, I'd like to address something that we spoke about.
Just one question. Which proposal? This one or the one that's redlined?
The red
The one that's red line,
Okay, so this is garbage.
the same thing.
Plus your changes.
they're both the same, but yeah. What we'll do is I'll clean that up, and I'll send them, I'll get you a copy right away, so you know what they are, and then at the same time, I'll send them to Cincinnati to have the final, but that won't affect the wording or anything, it'll just
Right.
clean up stuff.
Just the wording.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you another copy for your next meeting.
Well, you heard it all. There was some more regular meeting stuff after that, but I edited it out because I didn't think it was of any importance to these planning and zoning regulations. Totally rewritten. Decision to approve the regulations as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission based upon input collected over the last 4 months from various residents and public hearings. And the maps, they've been agreed to. And as I mentioned before in the beginning of the meeting, they're going to be sent to Sean Suter in Cincinnati, Ohio, who's the consultant that we paid a lot of money to help with these regulations. He'll look at them, make comments if necessary, put on the additions to the front and the back, the index, etc., appendix if necessary, get them back to everybody, and then on November 7th, 2016, they will be the law. So this is kind of a short program tonight, because it's not really a lot to say until November 7th. And November 7th, we can see how effective we were with our campaign to get as much back into the new, totally rewritten planning and zoning regulations as was in section 10.6, written 22 years ago by Tony Canavo's Planning and Zoning Commission, with Mike Ham as vice chairman. Mike helped to write the section 10.6 as well. But it looks like everything we could do before we'll be able to do in the new regulations. Everything we could do with section 10.6 one way or another, you'll be able to do it. You'll have to go through a little more red tape probably, but you'll be able to get it. So one way or another, the things we wanted included back into the regulations, as far as we can see now, we'll know for sure on November 7th, are in there. So with that, I'm going to close this program tonight early, because there's not much more to say until November 7th. With that, I say good night. Thank everybody who signed a petition, 220-something people, perhaps even more now. Thank Mike Ham, an expert in planning and zoning regulations, who was on the commission for 14 years and vice chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission for 6 years in the good old days when Tony Canavo was chairman, trying to rebuild the town after the disasters we've had over the years. They built the industrial parks. They were trying like heck to get more profitable recurring revenue into the town to help with the schools and the infrastructure repairs that are needed. Remember, I always tell you that the roads and bridges, like Paris and London and other major cities, Rome, were built for horses and carriages and walking people. That's why all the factory owners lived right into town. There were no cars in those days. Sometimes they'd take a trolley or bus or whatever out to the surrounding towns, but most of the factory owners lived in town. Of course, once the car, the automobile came, and big heavy trucks, and a train stopped coming into town, put a heavy burden on our roads and bridges. And all the laws we have at the state and federal level, and local level too, I guess, require a lot of money to repair these roads and bridges. A lot of money indeed. And we're going to need it. Planning and zoning itself can help facilitate this, but the real strength has to come from the finance board and the schools and the lake associations, both here and in Winchester, working together to go out and find people that want to come to our town to provide jobs, to provide additional recurring advantageous revenue, so that the people that are here now can still stay and don't have to leave town, which they're doing now. They're voting with their feet. Most of the people that are been here a long time are leaving. We don't know what's going to happen with the revaluation that's in process now, and we'll know middle of next year. We could either stay the same, we could go down a bit in valuations, or we might even increase a bit, but that's unlikely. So the economy is in great flux right now everywhere, here, state, federal, and we have to do our part to survive despite that. We have to make this town, city of Winsted, town of Winchester, we have to balance it. We have to balance the budget with the needs of the town, schools, and residents. It's all got to be balanced. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. It's not easy to do. Not easy to do at all. But we've got to start. We've got to continue. Now, I think that the Democrats that are in power now, the liberal Democrats, they're all liberal, very liberal Democrats. They don't have many conservative ones on their town committee that I can see. So, good night. See you after the final decision has been made and the regulations come into effect. Good night, Brian O'Haron, Winsted resident. Winsted residents, what can the matter be? Winsted residents, what can the matter be? Winsted residents, what can the matter be? Justice is long overdue.